we've found our new segment to the podcast. Koltrane's life lessons.
Little life lesson, little life hack. Right.
Life hacks with Koltrane.
I'm telling you, it works. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. It works.
All right. Y'all ready to get going?
I was also stalling for James.
Okay. Yes. Hey, what is up, everyone? It is the BadCuzDad podcast. Me and Scott, we are back, and we are joined by Chase from Chasing Horizons, and of course, Koltrane once again off the back of BlizzCon. I think we're all pretty pumped. I mean, I don't know. Chris Metzen could sell, ice to an Eskimo. I don't know. He is insane. So yes, I am excited to talk about BlizzCon a little bit. How are you guys doing, Scott? What's up with you, man? What's going on?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. I got a coffee, tea, water, all the good stuff. Yeah, I'm doing good, man.
Chasing Koltrane, yeah, I'm guessing you were hyped off the BlizzCon stuff.
Just drinking water and getting hyped over water, and BlizzCon. Yeah.
I'm ready to dive into this, man.
Yeah, Metzen's insane. Metzen's insane.
That was the one thing. I was just so stoked to see, man. Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah, and we'll get into that because he was awesome, and he may have single-handedly saved WoW for their foreseeable future. I don't know, but
a bold claim, WoW, but a realistic one for sure.
I think so too. Let's talk about some news going on in the MMO world, some stuff that's happening. I think one of the big things, which I know is on top of everyone's list, especially Scott, is the new tarisland beta.
Oh my God.
Will be out this month.
Yes, Scotty! Look, he's so hyped he can't even sit still. He's so excited.
Yeah.
The
real WoW killer, has now finally showed up.
It's like the bizarro version of WoW.
Oh yeah, Bizarro. That's actually.
You know what it is? It's WoW 2.0. It's WoW 2.0. That's what it is.
I mean, they're going to be calling WoW 2.0 the Tarisland killer in a few years. You know what I mean? Yep. But seriously though, there's just some cool things that they're doing. They're just cutting out all the pain points, and they're just taking the good stuff from WoW, the dungeons, the raids. And it's just fun. It's a fun experience. I played that first initial beta, and I know Koltrane, you've signed up for this next beta, and you seem more eager to me than anyone to jump in. What is kind of appealing about Tarisland to you?
I'm excited, man. It seems like the best of WoW. They have a bard for one thing. I mean, a bard. I mean, come on, right? Coltrane. This is based off John Coltrane, not Coltrane from the Shooter. All right, it's John Coltrane. And, I watched you guys as you guys made some incredible content, some great videos on Tarisland back during that first closed beta. And it got me so hyped. Deadly boss mods built into it. There's a damage meter. There's a healing meter. Like, there's all this stuff that I love about WoW that's all in this. It's simplified, and it's also on mobile as well. So you can play it on the go. You know what I mean? Amazing. So I'm really, really, really excited for Tarisland, and I don't know. I'm just excited. I can't wait to try the Bard and to dive into it. I'm not as excited as Scotty, but I'm pretty pumped.
Sure.
Did they call you for any voiceovers for their DBM coaching?
No, they did not. But I'm super pumped, man. I mean, come on, right? So it's going to be good. Can't wait.
Mark your calendars like Scott has. It's here. It's on the way this month. It is. I don't know. I'll jump back in. I think it's just a fun time. Is it going to be my MMO I play forever? No. But hey, I want to see what they're doing right, and it's got a lot of fun stuff. So that's all I'm worried about. I'll play it for a little bit and see how it is.
Yeah. And Scotty, getting the closed beta 2 tattoo on your chest, I thought was extreme. But I know you're excited for that second closed beta test. But getting a tattoo of it, amazing. Yeah. Dedication.
Yeah. He's leaning into it.
Yeah.
All right.
Going for it.
Next on the list, for me at least, it's a big piece of news. Star Wars The Old Republic is coming out with their PvP Season 4 this month. I'll be playing a bunch of that. It's kind of like a battle pass system where you play and you just progress through the pass. I think there's 25 levels, really cool armors, and people who play Star Wars The Old Republic, they know it's all about the transmog, right? How close can I get to look like Obi-Wan or something stupid like that? You know what I mean? So that's what it's about for me at this point, just collecting the cool transmogs, playing the PvP, which is, funny enough, I think is the most similar to WoW out there, and so it's always enjoyable to me to go back and forth because it feels like riding a bike. You don't really lose anything going back and forth. So I think that's going to be a cool one coming up in the news before their big patch hits in December, which we'll, I'm sure, talk about in a podcast down the road. Another big one, which, again, this ties into World of Warcraft in a way, and we'll get there, is Guild Wars 2, which has recently swapped to a yearly expansion model, similar to maybe an ESO or a Destiny, something like that. This is their first quarterly update in this new model. So they launch the expansion, they'll have quarterly updates leading up to the expansion the following year. Now, I'm not saying that's what WoW is going to do, but, you know, it's possible.
Seems to be headed that way.
I mean,
maybe.
Isn't that what they
So,
did? They gave us the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't say 3 years specifically, but
That's true.
It's up
Next
for
three
debate, but
expansions,
it's definitely on the table, I think. So anyway, if you play Guild Wars 2, you know it's all about the horizontal progression. They have this mastery system that just expands horizontally, you know, mounts, skills, weapons, all these things that you can do in the game. The gear never increases. The level cap never increases. And so I really love that about the game. And so I'm just more curious on what are they going to deliver. This is the first time they've done that. You know, can they keep people engaged over this whole year? You know, and if this works, I'm like, hey, well, maybe this is what WoW should do next. And, you know, we know WoW likes to borrow things from other games.
Never. That's outrageous. Let me ask you, in Guild Wars 2, is there, I know the World v. World is huge in that game. Is that the main pull for players now? When they release a new expansion, is it the dungeons, the level? What is the big pull for Guild Wars?
So the big, I think when it was initially being developed and kind of in the beginning, World v. World was kind of what separated Guild Wars from a lot of games. And so that was a big deal then. I would say now, though, it's shifted much more towards storytelling and to open world content. So the way Guild Wars 2 does it, you know, they have dynamic events that happen throughout the world everywhere, which is a really cool system for leveling and experiencing content. And then in later expansions, they've added these maps, which have these things which they call map metas. So on the map, there is events happening that everyone in this particular instance of the map, which I think can be up to maybe 70 players, you must coordinate to progress this meta forward, ending in this huge boss battle or some sort of epic event. And that's kind of the whole reason for the map itself, or for the zone.
Wow, that's interesting.
So it is, and they have amazing rewards tied to that. The big thing with the new expansion is, which is something they hadn't done before, they're adding legendary armor to open world players, which is the majority of the players, and what makes Guild Wars great, traversing that open world with the amazing mounts they have. So legendary armor is just armor that allows you to swap your stats on the fly. So you can change to any build you want if you have legendary armor. It doesn't increase your power level in any way. It's just a convenience to be able to play the game how you want to play. So think in WoW, being able to change your stats for all your 3 specs on the fly without having to have other stuff. So, and they have weapons that are the same way, kind of a thing. So anyway, I would say Koltrane, the pull now is definitely towards the casual player, the open world player, and the story-driven player. The other things are still there, just not as prominent. But, you know, I think the new game directors are doing what they should do, and they're doing a great job. So,
awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
So I'll be jumping in to see. That also launched on the 7th. So that just happened now. So lots of stuff to play. And then the other one is a game that we heard about a long time ago, Throne and Liberty. They've come out with some news that I think the Korean launch is happening in December. But more recently, I think a lot of us looked at that first beta they had that didn't have an NDA. And I think a lot of players were concerned about the combat, the XP, some of the autoplay features. So have any of you guys followed that closely or interested in that game?
Was this the game that had it was one of the I want to say one of the first MMOs to announce that they had ray tracing, right? I think that was, am I thinking that's the right game? Hold on, I'm gonna look it up really quick.
You know,
yeah,
this 100%. It is an incredible looking game.
Oh,
this is one of the first major ones that actually announced that they had RTX. This was back this year they announced that had RTX in it. So maybe there are other MMORPGs that have RTX enabled, but obviously right now it's just a big takes a giant performance hit. But yeah, it does look like a gorgeous game, and I do remember hearing about that, it being fully ray traced. So that's pretty cool. Not gonna
Scott,
lie.
what was our take? If I remember right, what did we say when we saw it? Was like,
I think it was the usual pessimism.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, another Easter MMO.
Yeah.
Like, it looks awesome. There's probably going to be some awesome combat, but it's going to be all microtransactions and pay to win and that kind of crap.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at first we were so pumped just because there wasn't a lot of new MMOs on the horizon. We're like, oh, this one's going to be first to come out, maybe with some advanced graphics. But, you know, I watched that open beta and I was like, man, this combat, like, was this made for mobile? Is it like, what is going on here? What was your take, Koltrane, when you saw some of that stuff?
Well, that was the thing, man. And it was made for mobile. In the latest announcement they had this auto hunt, which I think auto hunting, as they called it.
Yeah,
so imagine this. You just set your character up. You put them in a group of mobs. You hit go hunt. And then you could just go to work. And then while you're at work, your character is literally pulling mobs, killing them, looting them, then pulls the next mob, kills it, looted. Then you come home, you're like, hey, honey, how was the hunt? Oh, I'm fine. I'm level 8 now. You're like, great, you know. So I guess it's good for that.
That's
that's working
pure immersion right there.
Right.
That's working smarter. Working smarter, not harder, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly right. But they said, too, that was very mobile friendly. You know what I mean? Because you could obviously do that very easily on the phone. The big complaint about the combat was you could not move when you did your abilities, especially as melee.
That's terrible.
As melee, right? So imagine you're a warrior. You've got this awesome sword. You're ready to charge in, and then you just stand there and swing.
I'm going to get you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm watching one of the most recent 4K video footage of it, and I'm like, oh my god, this looks like it looks like what Monster Hunter would look like, Monster Hunter MMO. And then you watch the combat, and it's like they stop, and they just and it's like, okay, you're a melee character.
Am I the only one that hates this forced combination of mobile games and PC games? Like, can we not just keep them in their own lane? I don't think that's ever going to work. Of course you do.
I love it. I love it.
Play it wherever, whenever.
Because there's going to be moments when I'm working, right? And you've got like 3-4 minutes of downtime. If I could launch my MMO on my phone and I could mine some rocks, or I could turn in a quest, or that'd be great, man.
Koltrane, we should mark this down as the ultimate debate, because I like this topic for another debate, because I think this is good. This is good.
Yeah. They went to work, and there's nothing more motivating than a stock price dropping to zero. I mean, let me tell you, that gets that ball rolling quick, because this beta came out and it was non-NDA, and everyone was in absolute shock. Like, what is this? Like, they couldn't believe it. And they, like you said, they got to work. They completely revamped the combat system. Now you can move and attack.
Oh, yeah.
There's no more auto hunting, and it's got promise. I'm looking at it now, and because before, man, I was in like Flynn kick me in the shin. I was so excited for Throne and Liberty until I saw that open beta, and then I was like, "What is?" Like I was in shock. It fell off a cliff. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. Yeah. So I'm tentatively optimistic.
No, I was the same as you. I'm a big Arcade player, or I was. I'm a fan. I know it has flaws, but I'm a fan, and so I'm willing to give Korean MMOs a shot. I know they're usually more grindy, with the possibility of pay to win.
Yes.
However, I was excited for this, and same as you, Koltrane, when I saw that all you had to do to live was just simply run, because you could never be caught by the melee player.
Exactly.
So you just run forever and live.
You're never gonna catch me.
Literally, because you would run, and then when you go to swing, you would have to plant in place and swing. And then it's crazy.
But I'm totally interested to see. I'm still not sure if they've announced when it's coming out for NA. But I hope it's soon. I hope this Korean launch kind of signals that we're not gonna have to wait too much longer to get it over here. And so I'll be ready to jump in day one and at least give it a shot and see what it's all about. But there was this BlizzCon thing that happened. I don't know if anybody
What is this?
Notice that.
Do talk. I want to hear more about this BlizzCon.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's been dominating the news, right? As far as MMOs, there were other things at BlizzCon as well, other than WoW, which we will kind of touch on. But I'm just like, if you bought a ticket to BlizzCon for anything but WoW, I'm like, what do you reevaluate your finances and what you're spending your money on? You know what I mean? I don't know. That's the way I feel about it. But
you're absolutely right.
There's a lot of headlines coming out. First BlizzCon to not sell out, right?
Yeah, that was a trip.
First, they did the online ticket. Well, they didn't do the online ticket. It was free to watch online this year. I think a lot of players were looking in from the outside, old players who have left the game. What are they going to do? And we'll talk about, did they do enough, kind of this thing. And I don't know, in the back of my mind after watching it too, this will just be my, overview take is as someone who WoW was usually like a secondary game for me or something like that, I'm just incredibly jealous of BlizzCon, of what the amount of support and hype this game receives. Like, I would love my MMO to get this. It's very rare, and I do think it's a special thing, regardless of the state that people think WoW or other Blizz games are in. So, still a very cool event in my eyes. But I don't know, Koltrane, you're the WoW old head here.
Right.
The vet. You've been sticking with it for the longest. What was your 1,000-foot take on what you saw at BlizzCon?
I'd probably sum it up in in all of BlizzCon, I'd probably sum it up in like 3 words. I'd probably say like the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Sounds
right?
very McCree of you.
Yeah, that's right, McCree. Yeah, that's right. A little bit of good, bad, and ugly.
Oh man!
Yeah.
After this show,
Clip.
Clip and I are gonna go in our own little Evie Mugs.
That's right. That's right. It was, but it's as far as for the good, World of Warcraft. Okay, and I got to throw this out to all you guys. Chris Metzen.
Yeah.
All right. What was it like for you guys? I know what it was like for me, right?
Chills
inducing, right? So what was it like for you guys? Chris Metzen out there. Did he have that impact for you guys?
Dude, he's such a hype man. And honestly, man, it's such a great feeling to see somebody who has so much passion for the brand, the Blizzard brand as a whole, and then the games that came out of his mind. Realistically, obviously he didn't just have it, he had help, obviously, but there's so much with him that is Blizzard, and then like without him, there was just this kind of hole in the soul of Blizzard, and I think really seeing him back on stage, seeing him hype up things, you could collectively feel the energy there. And I know that BlizzCon didn't sell out this year, or may have.
It's borderline magical, man.
It really is.
Is.
Like first time I've actually felt that, and I didn't watch the entire I didn't. I've had very little time to watch the entirety of it, but I specifically watched him talking, and I was just like, felt it. I was like, there is real passion behind these projects now.
Yep.
It's not just, it takes a leader. I mean, you think about Steve Jobs. He reinvented Apple when it had gone down the path of IBM. It literally took one man with a vision, and people would argue, oh, Steve Jobs is just a marketer. Yeah, he was, and he was a great marketer. He wasn't a nice guy, but he was a fantastic, brilliant marketer. I think Metzen has an element of that to him. He knows how to carry a story. He knows how to carry a team, and he knows how to carry energy, and he really brought that to the stage.
Absolutely.
I'll let you go next, Scott, since you're a huge Thrall fan, self-proclaimed.
Oh, man.
What did you see when you saw him come on stage? What were your thoughts?
I mean, first of all, he looked kind of like a badass now. All silver fox and rocking the
bald head and everything. I mean, guys,
represent.
Right. But I don't think I can say it much better than Chase just did. He is, to me, there is no true Warcraft without Metzen. And I haven't, every BlizzCon up until this point, especially after quitting, it's a quick glance for me. I'm like, that ship sailed kind of deal. But seeing him up there made my ears perk up a little bit. Like, wait a second. I'm feeling things I haven't felt in a long time. You know?
The tinglies.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Why don't we get James in here? Here he is.
Oh, excellent.
In a long time.
Speaking of something I haven't felt in a long time.
Voices.
James,
Hey,
did
how's
you
it
get
going?
to see the Chris Metzen come on stage at BlizzCon? I don't know. Did you get to watch much of the coverage?
I wish I did. I've been hearing all about it and how people are psyched about it. I've just been busy outside of all this, unfortunately.
Sure.
Well, I'll tell you, there was one thing that in the opening cinematic that they showed between Thrall and Manduin.
All right, we got to go into this hardcore right now because
Hold on. Let me
getting a little bit of
Metzen,
moist in my loins.
Let me give my Metzen take real quick.
Yes, please.
Like I said before, as someone who WoW is not my main, I still got pretty emotional just knowing the background of Metzen being away from the game, his journey back to the game.
Yes.
And the thing that got me is when he speaks, he is speaking, or it appears to me, to us as fellow nerd gamers.
Yeah.
Like, it's so natural, conversational. There's nothing PR about it, right? Which
Purely
I think,
pure authenticity.
I think WoW had struggled with that. Not because I think any of the other people in the past few years aren't passionate about the game, but Metzen just has, like you said, Scott, almost magical way of communicating to players who he connects with. And he connects, you know, connected with the crowd at BlizzCon. It was incredible to watch. And so that's my main takeaway. Like, at least, even if it's not going to go in a direction I want, I believe that it will, just because I believe what he was saying. You know, it seems very sincere.
He sold you that pen. He's like, here's a pen, and I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Dude,
I'm
gonna
give you a story about this pen.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say, it was when I was referring real quick to the cinematic, there's this great line from Thrall where he says, "I trust you," and that's what I feel about Metzen. Like, I trust you. You know what I mean? And that's what I feel about the future of WoW. I can't help but think we're in the end game now. Like when they announce the next 3 expansions, you know what I mean, of what's coming up and where the story is, it feels like Endgame. Like it feels like it's all building to this like amazing climax of this story that we've been following for, you know, almost 20 years. You know what I mean? It feels like it's all building to this. That's what I got with this World Soul Saga, by the way. Isn't Saga like, what a great thing to say.
Really
You know what I mean? It's like the Star Wars Saga, you know, it's so great.
It's not an expansion pack, it's a saga. Like it's full,
and having
Buckle
Metzen,
up, Buttercup.
and having him be at the root of it, at the foundation of it, of something that he started. Now he's going to take us to the end to finish it.
So
my gosh, it's
like that perfect story arc, right?
It really is.
Beautiful.
So I got chills seeing him up there.
When you bring up good, bad, and ugly, Koltrane, that was definitely the good, and it was actually definitely the best. So it was amazing to see.
It was the great, yes.
What was the bad in your mind?
Oh gosh, well, I mean, it's okay. So like the good is everything WoW, and if we get into all the WoW stuff, that's all part of the good.
We will.
The bad for me was a little bit of the D4. I thought the presenters were excellent. I just wish that there was a little bit more info. And what surprised me was when I started to look at videos, a lot of people felt that too. There was so much of, we've been working on it, we're going to announce it. We're working on it, we're going to announce it. Overwatch 2, what I appreciated about Overwatch 2 was at least they showed some super early stuff. Super early. Here's where we're thinking. Here's a brand new hero. It can burrow underground. Super cool. Here's a brand new map. Here's this, you know.
Here's Overwatch 3.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Please forget Overwatch 2 exists.
Right.
Yeah, forget it. That was a misstep. Overwatch 3, that's the new.
Overwatch 3 is going to be insane. But I just wish with D4, they kind of like, they gave us more. There was so much of like, and we can't quite talk about that. And like, there's a new expansion. Fantastic. They hinted at a new class. Fantastic. They hinted at like this new progression system. They hinted, it was all hinted. Show us some stuff.
Something.
Yeah, give us a little something. Like Ian Hazakosis for the WoW panel. He's like, Here's what we're doing. Here's this. I understand each game is at a different stage of development, but we just need a little bit of more meat on the bone. You know what I mean? Give us a little bit more to chew on. You know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the ugly?
Oh boy. Oh, okay.
Here we go.
So I'll make this super quick because gamers, passionate gaming communities tend to find one thing sometimes, and you guys tell me, and then they blow up. They find one little thing and they blow up and they erupt and they say, this is the worst thing ever. And how could they, blah, blah, blah. That's never been me. I'm always a positive fella, right? I'm looking for the silver lining. I'm like, well, yeah, it's not great, but it's okay. It's okay. But this is the first time in WoW's history where it kind of grinds my gears. I'm a little irked here, boys. I'm a little irked. And what I'm irked about is the $90 3-day early access to an MMO.
They did it.
Now, they did it. Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying this is the industry. This isn't Blizzard. Okay, the industry does do early access. Diablo 4 did it. Every other game has done it. This is the first time I've heard it in an MMO where they have resets every week. So in that first week, there's a reason. There's thousands of YouTube videos that say, here's what to do the first week of the new expansion. Here's how to min-max your first week of the new expansion, because you have a certain number of days before that first reset, right? And it's going to affect your player power. And this affects all of us, not just super hardcore min-maxers. This affects me. This affects all of us. Now so included in those videos now has to be pay $90 for the 3-day early access. That's insane.
It's honestly a middle finger to loyal fans. Like straight up. Yeah. That's just a sleazebag move, in my opinion.
You have to wonder though, if that was the old guard doing what they do before, the Microsoft buyout and like all that thing, you have to wonder if all of these were going to be, these are obviously set probably for the last year.
Oh, okay.
Did I freeze?
Like this is Bobby Kodak's last stand, his last stab with the sword.
A little bit of
what
body.
Sword?
Yeah, Bobby dropping the last Bobbyism, like hey, how do we suck more money out of the OGs, and like the real players who are actually still like living and breathing. Wow, that it seems like it, but at the same time,
Dude,
I'm like
Microsoft. You know what would endear Phil Spencer to the Blizzard fans more than anything if he somehow changed this.
I think it will be changed. I'm saying
I do too. I do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
How is Phil Spencer like the coolest guy on stage at a WoW event with his leather jacket, just like gamer?
He had old school Metzen vibes, dude. Cool. He looked like Metzen back in the day. He did.
Yeah, that was cool.
I'm still gonna buy the expansion. I am. I'm definitely not going to get the $90 version. I'm going to get the basic version. I'm not even going to get the heroic one, but I am still going to get the expansion. And I'm not trying to turn this into a hate train or generate hate clicks or anger or anything like that. I'm still positive about the game. The expansion looks amazing. Sure. But 3 days early access on an MMO where like gear, Mythic Zero resets, reputation, all that stuff is locked to that first week. You know what I mean? And that is important because that affects player power. It is.
It's a lot of honor and conquest you could rack up for sure.
Right. And then it resets. So the 3-day early access, that's a little thing that kind of irks me. I haven't been irked like this.
And expansions are just kind of magical in their own right. And it feels, especially when so many people are logging in and you're part of that whole world. And now you just get to see everybody. It's like, you get to see all your friends talk about the new gift they got while you wait for it,
Right.
They sit on the sidelines.
The only good news is that for those that pay $90, if you honestly think you're going to be able to log in on day 1, 2, and 3,
that's a great. Have we not learned this?
Have we not learned
Oh my God, it's so true.
So enjoy. Have a great time.
It was probably the most successful launch.
Yeah,
Dragonflight.
Yeah, it was the most successful launch.
I got to admit, it was actually a very good launch. That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
After 7 expansions, they'll learn.
Yes. So that was my little bit of ugly, but I really want to focus on the good because I think World of Warcraft really just killed it. And what's exciting to me is I am a WoW lifer. I'm still playing to this day. New raid comes up, but for you guys who haven't dove in, the fact that you guys are excited, even at the beginning with just Metzen, that's amazing. That's super exciting.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you, Koltrane. Spot on. It kind of cheapens it, and it's it's kind of a slap in the face. It's not ideal to have the 3-day early access. The ugly for me, before we kind of transition and hitting some of the other games, before we get to WoW, which our 5 viewers are waiting for us to talk about. The ugly for me was kind of the forgotten games, right? Your Heroes of the Storm, your StarCraft, your Warcraft RTS. Especially in my mind, I think with the Microsoft acquisition, I think there's headroom for them to maybe do some things with these older IPs and even Heroes of the Storm, which isn't that old. Yeah. I think it still can be positioned as the casual MOBA, you know what I mean? And have that crossover. And so for me, I was kind of bummed. I was maybe hoping they would have something about some of those other games, but didn't happen. Well, Tom, but, maybe
Tom, one thing that Blizzard, I think I can't remember who the producer was that was on camera, but they compared themselves to Marvel, and I think there's a lot of stuff that they could bring in the years to come if they do they see themselves as Marvel and the Marvelverse and all that Marvel universe. All of that can come back up. I mean, it's 100%. It's not off the table, you know. But that I would say is there was a lot left, a lot to be desired. The other.
Well, supposedly
brands.
Microsoft now owns the King's Quest series, boys. Turned old King Graham. That might be aging me a bit. I don't know if any of you played King's Quest, Space Quest, right? Roger Wilco.
Yeah,
it's incredible. I might be aging myself a little bit.
No, potential is there. So I hope they do revisit some of those things. But let's jump into Diablo real quick. So I know you said, Koltrane, there was some good and some bad you heard. What about some of you other guys? I know Chase, James, I know you've played a lot of Diablo, especially James. I know, Chase, you really enjoyed the story, which a lot of our group actually did. What did you guys think of some of the Diablo announcements that came forward?
Rob's in, by the way, Tom.
Oh, is he?
Wow. Can you throw him in here?
Don't you wave to me,
He's
Rob.
He's waving at me in a really creepy way.
Just get in here. You stop waving. There he is.
Hey!
What is up, Rob? Perfect timing, actually.
Sounds like I came in at the perfect time.
Yes.
Yes. So, like I was saying, Diablo, I mean... I'll throw it to you guys. Who wants to take it first? James, Rob?
Yeah, I could
Chase,
take it from
what do you think?
what I've read. So I know they're trying to patch in these rings. I think tomorrow, actually. They're trying to, and this is where it's kind of like this good and bad and ugly as well. Is they realize that there's something off with the game. So mid-season, they're like, here, have some content. Because they know that something is just off. So they're like, we had success with this Malignant thing last season. Let's make them rings and let's throw them in the game and see what happens. It's because there's still just something not quite there. And I think for whenever I play it, Diablo 3 came so far, but it's more of this synergy with weapons and stuff where you can build whatever build you want. Like, you want to be a druid that's a werewolf that can run the fastest but still do damage? Like, that's how it would be in Diablo 3 if you could make it. And so I think they're just trying to understand where this line is at. And, like, we know something's missing. Here's 6 rings from the last, season. You guys figure it out. Go search for this while we figure out what we're trying to accomplish here because we're just not quite there yet. I think that's where they're kind of at right now. They realize that something's off, and they're trying to reward players for being just... kind of held captive by their game until they figure it out.
God, that's actually spot on.
So you think they're kind of in a limbo until they really get the formula down of how they want to progress? With
Well, the fact they're even saying that there's an expansion, like, hey, slow down. Like, let's get this game where you want it first. I know you want to make all the money with the expansion, make a new class, but they're like, okay, but we also realize something's messed up. It's just like, let's fix all the stuff that's messed up. And then we can talk about the expansion. The fact they're even announcing expansions, I get it. Business, it's great. But they realize that something's wrong and they're trying to fix it in a kind of a backhanded way.
It's almost a different approach that they did with Reaper of Souls and Diablo 3. It's like they're taking their time while it's probably pissing off a lot of existing fans they're finally kind of resetting, and in a lot of ways early on, versus waiting until season 7 before they finally start fixing things. Because like Diablo 3 felt like that. Like realistically, Diablo 3 at launch, story was okay. But the end game just wasn't there. And then Reaper of Souls came out, and it was like it fixed everything that was inherently wrong with the story, and they tied up loose ends and all of this stuff, and it really brought it back to its core kind of dark vibe, I guess, if you will. And the story was good, and the end game was solid in that. It felt really good, and people just love to talk about Diablo 3, how it's this amazing game now. I'm like, it took 7 seasons before it was a solid game, realistically. And I think they're trying hard to not do that again, and I think
the seasons just aren't quite there yet. Like they don't I feel like they should do the items before the seasons. Until the items feel good, don't bring in new content that, I mean, maybe this is their way of testing like that type of stuff, where it's like, all right, these are the items we're going to add based on the test group. Like we're the test group right now. Hey, like I'm glad we're your test group, but I feel like we need something more finished, because the story was amazing. But once you got to end game in season 2, I'm like vampires. All right.
Yeah.
Like, here we go. Like, what are we doing? And I didn't really understand it, but
it's a funny thing too. You're right that they shouldn't rush it, but on the same token, new seasons, new expansions, that's when numbers go way up.
Oh yeah.
That's when you start getting the pops on Twitch and and all these, and on social media. That's when all the players come back to check out the new season, to check out the new numbers. So you're right, because there was a point there on Twitch where Diablo 4 was being streamed far less than Diablo 3. Like you could barely even find it.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So they're in a tough spot. I agree with what you're saying. But Rob, what do you think, man? Are you pumped about the D4 BlizzCon? What do you think?
Give us a ray of hope. What was good about it?
Well, I mean, I'm a big lore fan of Diablo. I've been playing since the very first one, and like the video doesn't show you much. It just it's like a zoom through a jungle. You hear Mephisto talking, and then you see the big palace. And anybody who's played Diablo 2 knows that's Mephisto's lair from Diablo 2, the season. What's it called? Act 3.
Was it Karast and Trevenchal?
Yep, correct. Well, Trevenchal is the country. Karast is the city.
Karast, and that's right.
That's the Temple of Light that he started corrupting all the paladins.
Yeah,
that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
And the way the story seems to be progressing is because the priesthood is kind of become corrupted too and coming after you. There's going to probably be a completely new class that's going to be like paladin-ish, but separate. Like probably a class paladin that has not even corrupted, like a guy who's disenfranchised with a former paladin who's disenfranchised with the church.
Ooh, like a Death Knight.
I don't know about that.
Death Knight would be awesome.
Well, I mean, aren't Death Knights corrupted paladins?
Yeah. Actually,
I don't think it's going to be corrupt. I think it's going to be more disenfranchised.
Going
on his own,
like a dark Jedi,
disgruntled, the disgruntled,
a gray Jedi.
It's like the inner cities that Trump talks about. So
here
paladins in the inner cities,
and now we're on politics. All right, okay. Anyway.
I don't know. Chase, is that what you're looking forward to? The story?
Yeah.
You're just like, hey, what are they going to do next? Where's it going?
Of all the characters, man, I really genuinely, I mean, I love the VOs in that game, and I'm a big sucker for brilliant VOs, and I think they just nailed it in that regard. Awesome. And Mephisto was my favorite. My God, what an absolute voice that actor!
Yeah.
Just every time you interacted with the wolf, you got that creepy, like, I don't want to trust you, but I have to, but and I almost felt bad for Lilith at times. I don't want to spoil anything.
This is how I feel about Koltrane and James
but it's like that voice though, like they just nailed it with Mephisto, and it was just like, oh man, okay, like I don't like you, but I gotta trust you because the voice is making me trust you. And you just take me to where the next world, because obviously things happen a certain way, and I'm not going to spoil it again, but you know, it just got me excited to be like, okay, now we're gonna really dig in, and God, we might actually. Again, I don't want to spoil it. I'm not gonna, because there's probably people out here watching this, you know, that are like, I haven't played it, but
Thousands.
But yeah, there's thousands. There's
one in this room.
But
I have no idea what you guys have been talking about for the last 10 minutes. I'm just going to be honest.
But truthfully, yeah, like
whatsoever.
So. But I think of all the characters, Mephisto was my absolute favorite, and I think
what
that's
about you,
be the focus.
Scott? What's going to get you back in the game? Did you like any of the announcements, or you're just going to play it?
Man, I was telling Rob a couple days ago, I've just fallen off the wagon with Diablo in general. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I have zero interest, and I love that game. Always have. Remnant. Yeah, I think there's just better options that I'd rather put my time into right now. It's not for any particular reason. It's just not into it right now.
Right.
Like, but a Paladin does sound spicy.
Gas Station Simulator is out. I mean, I get it. Like,
yeah.
Watch the numbers.
Power washing simulator. Yeah,
that's right. By the way, Gas Station Simulator is actually phenomenal.
I can't believe it.
It's like a real game.
Highly recommend. It's fantastic.
Koltrane's played it, of course.
Absolutely. I've beaten it twice. It's amazing. The story is unbelievable. I think Mephisto's good. Woo!
I'm on a New Game Plus on that game right now.
Yes, exactly.
It's like a meshing of Trucker Simulator and like
amazing
power washing.
Goat Simulator 2 is coming out soon.
That's right.
That's right.
From the outside looking in, though, a lot of the things I've just read and seen about Diablo is it seems like a lot of the stuff is, it's not ARPG enough and it's not MMO enough. It's like something in the middle, and they should have went more in the ARPG direction than they did. And so y'all can speak to that if that's true. And then the other thing I've heard is there's tons of retention mechanics that maybe people aren't super happy with. And so, like I said, I don't know because I haven't played. What's you guys' take on those two things?
Okay. Chase, I was going to say something. When we were playing Remnant a few nights ago, we both said, man, wouldn't Diablo be awesome if it was like Remnant in this third person? And that whole, just the stylized, like it could work.
Yeah.
And I think Diablo, and I mean, a lot of people would argue, and I know Rob would probably be one of them. He'd say, well, that's not Diablo because the top down is Diablo, so to speak. But
Diablo is really Remnant and Dynasty Warriors combined. That's
or Monster Hunter, or
it would work. I think it would work, and it would be a risk. And people would just say this isn't Diablo; it's just another game, and I get that. But at the same time, that lore and that kind of gameplay style, it
would be perfect.
But Rob, is Diablo caught in two minds to you, Rob? Is it trying to bring in these MMO light elements? Is that hurting the overall what it could be? Maybe its full potential. For you?
I mean, for me, like, the first two were almost exclusively single player games. The third one kind of added some MMO to it. I think you can do a hybrid, but there's a lot of things that they did take away from the ARPG to kind of make it more MMO that kind of did make it a little rough. Like, I mean, obviously, all the server problems they had at the beginning, it really kind of annoyed me. Although I logged in for the first time after a month the other day, and no lag, no rubber banding. I was really happy about that. I got to play a little bit of the new season. I felt like the new powers were a lot of fun to play. All the vampiric powers. There's just a lot of tweaks that they really need to. And it's just minor things, like you should be able to zoom in and out a little bit of your character, whether you want to play. Like you can make it more third person if you zoom in a little bit, and kind of
can't see anything.
Well, but also you should be able to do it the other way and zoom out if you want to have a big screen and more of a battle type of thing.
Well, like you could at the big bosses, it zooms out automatically at all the big bosses, and you're like, oh my god, this is perfect. But
they should let you control that, not just have the game zoom in and zoom out depending on the scene. Like, you should leave that to the player. I mean, this is like stuff that they've been doing in games for how long?
Yeah.
You can zoom in and out of a camera.
Yeah, and you like to look at your character and check out their armor. Or,
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was a part of why they instituted that super zoom. That there's no variability. There's just either zoomed in fully where it just becomes impossible to play, and then there's zoomed out to a level, but it's not enough. It's still not enough to where you're like, okay, I get the whole feeling of the battlefield. It's like, yeah. So it's just too much and too little, I think.
So final verdict on Diablo at BlizzCon. Are we positive? Are we like, it's a wait and see?
I think it's a meh.
It's a wait and see.
Meh.
Thumbs three-quarter up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still positive on it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good deal. Does anyone play Overwatch even?
I haven't played since they decided to make a sequel.
Yeah.
So
that was a mistake.
Yeah, and obviously Blizzard seemed to know that because there was hardly any coverage of Overwatch whatsoever. They just had the panel, and that was it.
So rough, man.
Yeah, the loot boxes went away. Like all the stuff that was fun about Overwatch 1. Yes. And then when I heard Overwatch 2, I'm like, oh, wow, they're making a sequel already? And I played it. I'm like, wait a second. Like, they just repackaged.
It just became a monetized pile. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. Now, I know that a lot of the PvE stuff that they had been teasing was cut before Overwatch 2. Was there any mention of that? Are they trying to add that back in, or is that still just we're done?
They kept they kept snippets of that. It just feels like little pieces of what was there. It was like, and that's the most frustrating part is like, oh yeah, we're going to remove all this, but then, oh, hey, by the way, we're going to keep this aspect of the PvE. And it's like, but why did you just pull away the entirety of it? Like you had this plan. Yeah. It just felt.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's worth talking about. I really don't. Yeah. Plain and simple.
Last podcast, we had an interesting take. Koltrane, I think you said, WoW Classic is a little bit of a slap in the face to the current developers. Like, why are we going backwards? Shouldn't we be going forwards in a way? But I thought they announced some interesting things with Classic and Classic Hardcore. So, I don't know. Cataclysm? I mean, is anybody really excited to go back to Cataclysm? I don't know. What do you guys think?
No.
And I understand why people went back to those and how they're appealing. But I think the stuff that they showed us about retail WoW going forward gives us even more of a reason not to revisit Hardcore. I think the retail version has the potential to now come back to reigning as what most people play. I think Hardcore and Classic was a great refresher, a great nostalgic part to revisit for a lot of players and to get away from kind of just the slog fest that retail had become. It was a way to just still enjoy WoW the way we remember. Yeah. But now it looks good going forward, and I don't foresee that them focusing so many resources now on Classic. I'm sure they'll keep it up, but I'm not sure how much they're going to add to that going forward.
Ooh, I completely disagree. Oh boy, Scotty, do I ever
We're
disagree?
Just not vibing tonight.
No, we're always vibing, baby. We're always vibing. But they even said this is Classic plus other stuff, right? So the big thing that everybody wanted was Classic Plus. And you had mentioned, Tom, about a slap in the face, that I mentioned. It's kind of a slap in the face to current devs. But I got to tell you, man, the hype was insane. They introduced, it was called Season of Discovery, I think, was the name of it. And this is crazy. They're kind of, they're revamping Classic in a weird way. They're making it where it's currently the max level is 25, and you can get all these abilities from essentially retail that were not available in Classic. They have a new raid in Black Fathom Deeps, which was just a regular dungeon. But here's what's crazy. There's new loot. There's brand new loot in this raid. They killed this boss, and there was some sword that shot out water. It was like a jet thing. And people are like, what is this? And now Paladins are ecstatic because now they can do DPS. Right? They're bringing Templar's Verdict, all these other stuff. Because look, Paladins and Classic, like you were healers. Or I think it was like that was it. There was nothing else you were doing.
You were. Right.
Yeah. So they're ecstatic. Paladins are going crazy because they get to play Ret. They get to be DPS. So it's such a crazy thing. They're even making it where where warlocks can kind of tank, like if you're in like demon form or something, like you can tank or something. I saw one of the articles about. So it's really crazy. I think everyone's reaction was like, what is this? Like, I don't think anybody saw this coming.
So
it was just blew my mind. Go ahead.
My question to that, though, Koltrane, my question to you would be, what is their end game on that then? If they've got two running versions of WoW that are kind of merging, features in a lot of ways, isn't it just going to end up WoW again? Like, I mean, it's like one piece. Like, it's just going to like right now, it's like these two timelines that are doing, like, one's ahead of the other, and then eventually are they going to merge? Like, what do you feel like the end game is for this?
It's all answered in Loki season 2. If you've watched that answers it all. Loki.
It's an Ouroboros, okay? All right.
No, I think what they did is really smart. So first of all, like you said, Koltrane, they capped it at level 25, and they've made it seasonal. So in my mind, what it seems like they're going to do, plus it's all new content, right? Like when you get to 25, a new raid it's never been there. It's totally new gear, new ways to play your character. I mean, a warlock tank, a mage healer. That's kind of wild. And they said, after we play this for a little while, the level cap will increase to, I'm sure, maybe like 50. And then you're going to get the same thing, totally new raid, new stuff to do. And so I think once they get to cap or however long they want to take it, I think they'll just start over with a new season and do things differently in whatever the next season is, not season of discovery, season of whatever, the next time they do it.
Yeah, so, and they're talking about maybe bringing back old zones that were originally supposed to be a part of original classic WoW. Like I heard something about like Karazhan, like the towers of Karazhan or something. Like, but it was like an underdeveloped zone, or like, because remember there was all these videos of like people, they somehow hacked through a wall and they found these like areas that were like in early development. And they're talking about bringing those back, but actually developing those zones that were supposed to be in the original and making these playable with quests and mobs and everything. And I mean, they're literally doing it. It's literally Classic Plus. It's crazy. God. I didn't think they would ever do this, but they're doing it. It's a crazy thing. So every single person that I know that plays Classic is ecstatic for this. And they're going crazy for this. And the only reason I would say, Scotty, is that I'm going to slightly disagree, is that I think that they're going to keep adding more of this stuff. There was so much hype for this season of Discovery. They're going to keep adding more and more in this. And it's really, if you look at it, they've got two different teams. They've got two different game directors, and they're really going forward with it. So I was super impressed. Everybody went crazy for this Classic stuff.
So is it just going to continue on like old school RuneScape versus RuneScape type of thing? Like, is it going to be those?
I think so. In fact,
like
I think
two
there's
different
gonna be
audiences,
like 5 or 6 versions of WoW at this point. Like Classic Plus, the Classic Hardcore. I forgot what the other retail, and there's going to be like it's going to be outrageous,
confusing.
I guess my point was, and I agree with you, Koltrane. You made great points. Like that's a great argument, and I agree. But to Chase's point as well, where is the end game for all of this? Is going forward running this many versions of WoW, is it sustainable? And I just can't. I feel like it's going to enter like the loom in Loki. It has to come together at some point for the future of just the MMO genre itself. I do not think this is sustainable long term.
Here, I'll give you my take because I've played some other games that do similar things. So I know I reference ArcAge a lot, but ArcAge has this thing where they go back and they call these fresh start servers. So the funnest time of ArcAge is like the first month when everyone's in a race, an arms race to get gear, to build ships, to build houses, farms. And so that's simply what I see this Classic seasonal. I think once they do Kata, I don't think they're redoing any WoW Classic anymore. I think it's all going to eventually be this WoW Classic seasons, right? And I think Hardcore will probably still go, but because this is what is great about Classic, right? And this is speaking from someone who didn't play vanilla. So this is just in my mind of playing these ArcAge fresh start servers. What I get from it is that WoW Classic and WoW Retail are wildly different games at this point, right? And look, we're all boomers playing this game, right? And the most boomer-ish of all of us, WoW Classic is very simple at its core. Yep. It's not simple, might be the wrong word. It's just not as complex. Mm-hmm. The fights, when people went back into Classic, they one shot all the bosses, right? It wasn't, but I think that's the pull to it. We are craving something less complex, more community driven. And so until WoW Retail can reset and get to that point, I think Classic is always going to have a place for a lot of people who want to relive that experience. And if they can do it in a seasonal model that keeps it fresh and changes things up. And at the other thing you talked about, BlizzCon, people went nuts for this Classic stuff. And I think it's just a great PR tool to be like, hey, look, we're listening to you. Because I guarantee you there's way more retail players, even with all the hype with Classic and all that. There's still more people playing retail. Yeah. The people who are just casual, who aren't on the forums, aren't making their voices known, don't watch Twitch. So it's still in their best interest to put most of their eggs in the retail basket. But I think there's such good, they just get so much good PR with the fans by doing the Classic stuff. And if they can simplify it over time, I think it's just a net positive, personally, because you're getting that sub either way, no matter what game you're playing.
I have a question. And Rob, did you get to watch any of this stuff at BlizzCon about WoW?
Nothing about WoW, just about Diablo.
Okay. I'm just curious, as somebody, which I'm still baffled to this day, that somebody that games as much as you do has not played WoW. It's criminal, is what it is.
When it first started, I was more on consoles at the time.
Yeah.
There you go. Got into it.
My question is, though, would you, especially seeing all of us now getting a little bit hyped, would you consider actually trying the game out this time?
Maybe. I mean, if there becomes a big lull period where there's nothing going on in gaming, then maybe I'll take a look at it.
Even after our New World experience where we've all jumped in, would that be appealing? Like, hey, the whole group is in playing some WoW.
Still playing.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
And it's funny because I'm not completely disconnected from WoW, because in the 90s I was big on the Warcraft RTS games.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, and I saw some rumors about this online, that now that they're owned by Microsoft, and Microsoft did definitive editions of the Age of Empires games.
Oh, yeah.
Can we get a Warcraft RTS definitive edition?
Yes. Please.
We're under attack.
Only if you play WoW Retail, then they'll think about it. So,
that's the requisite.
I was thinking about this whole classic and nostalgic game again on the drive over as I drove after eating my pho and noodles.
That's good.
And so, you guys made this channel obviously because to get the message out to people like us, people who are not the forgotten about, but the ones that people are maybe not really making games for anymore. And so we keep going back to these games like Ex-Girlfriends. Let's put it that way. It's where there was a spark there. There's a reason why you guys got together in the first place. And then you go back, you're like, all right, let's just try this one more time. And then you're just searching for something that is no longer there because you've grown. You have children, you have responsibility, you have a new career, you've just grown in life. And this game has kind of been left in the past. And so you've grown past it, and then add in a myriad of different body parts falling off because you're getting older, and all these different effects that we're having on our bodies, and just life just weighing us down. So we're looking for that one moment of remember that spark where everything was exciting, you got those butterflies in your stomach, and you know what, I want to recreate that moment. And then you're like, you go back to it and you're like, oh, this is so great. And then 2 months you're like, I remember why we broke up. Like, and so it's just like you go to that. So you're chasing this never-ending nostalgia of that ex-girlfriend that was just so much fun, or your ex that was just so much fun, and then you realize why it didn't work out in the first place. So when I see all these new classics coming back, classic plus, classic, like everything, I'm like, oh man, that sounds so great. And you go out there, you play it for 1-2 months, you're just like, oh man, like this was fun. You learned some new things. I learned some new things. We both grown, but you're still classic. And I'm over here with retail now, or I'm over here with this new game, this new thing that's sparking interest in my life. That we're trying to cater to this thing that we keep chasing. And I mean, I miss all those moments, but I think the thing I miss the most is those times in the games that you have with a community where you share something that is never going to happen again. This one thing that was like an inside joke that everyone was laughing at, and you're trying to go back and recreate a moment, not the game, but those moments. And I think
that's what it is.
Beautifully put.
So true.
Put some music underneath there. Put some strings, some orchestra. Beautiful.
Really beautiful. And you know what, James? I watched all of the retail WoW presentation, and you know what I can tell you?
What?
It's going to be different this time. Surely it's not going to be like all the old times we got back together. This is the one. I'm convinced. So let's jump into it.
Yeah.
The WoW World Souls
You sultry
Saga.
little harlot, you.
We didn't just get one expansion announcement. We got 3 expansion announcements. Insane. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see that coming, I could say. My hope was for a WoW reset, which I think looks to be in the near future. But was this on anyone's radar? I mean, were you guys like, this is what we're going to get?
I feel like... Is it just me, or are they just almost rebranding it? I feel like in every expansion, there's another part of the expansion that gets its own cinematic, or trailer, or story buildup. It's a big patch. Like, how is this any different? I feel like they're just naming the patches expansion.
Oh, it's way different. It's way different.
Is it?
I'll tell you, but I want to let everybody else go first. What are you guys' thoughts on the big announcement? I don't know.
For me, it's story first. And that's what's got me excited. It's story first. And the fact that just this cinematic, it started with Thrall and Manduin.
God, that Thrall. Oh.
Can we talk about that for just a moment?
Let's just
like at least 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh,
of course.
Exactly. That's all it'll take.
What'd you think, Scotty?
Oh, man. First of all, the sand got me. Like, the sand looked incredible. And then, of course,
I hate sand.
It gets everywhere. It's rough and coarse. But, I mean, obviously, the visuals were stunning. And then the way that Chase and I were talking again, the way their eyes conveyed emotion was
incredible.
It was really like watching actors on screen, which, I mean, it's voice actors, but yeah, the visual effects were incredible. And then the story, and see, for me, I felt very emotional from that. And I have no idea what's going on in the story right now. So like they were able to say like, hey, if you haven't been here, some shit's gone down. And it's like, wait, wasn't Anduin the little kid that kept saying his father was gone somewhere in Stormwind? And now he's just this grown dude that's seen some shit. And it was powerful. And of course, you bring Metzen and Thrall back into the picture. He's just so majestic and
and that's why they call him Manduin now, not Anduin. It's Manduin.
He looked a little bit like Stephen Amell.
Yeah,
didn't he?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you guys think, man? Do you got that same goosebumps too?
I mean, I know you got me to watch it after I didn't watch it, and I watched it, and I just want a game. I want a WoW that looks like the trailer. Like, I just want to live in that. Yeah. I don't want cartoon WoW anymore. I want to live in like a New World aesthetic. WoW. Like I want to take screenshots of everywhere I go. You know,
it does look better now, man. They've done
it does. No, I've
updates.
I've definitely seen the upgrades, but
yes, it still looks cartoony.
Comparatively, it's just it's a different aesthetic, obviously. But you know, it's just God. It and then it makes me want a movie. Just give us a movie.
Or to play the game.
Or to play the game. Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it like you said, it was super well done trailer. Like I said, someone who doesn't main WoW, I was like, whoa, this is, and I've seen trailers in the past, with the whiny Anduin, and you're like, oh, this kid's a little punk, like, you know what I mean? And I think even I know in WoW story, you're kind of waiting for that, crossover into manhood for Anduin, and it just seems like you thought it would happen, like, but it didn't happen. But this one, I think there's no doubt any longer. You know what I mean? Like, he is the next character that I'm interested in hearing about, and it's obviously, I'm bearing the lead a little bit. The War Within is obviously a play on Anduin as well. Like, dealing with the stuff that he's went through, not just we're going inside of Azeroth to visit these underground zones or whatever.
You can feel Metzen all over this, can't you? Like, it's back.
This cinematic had to have been his idea or something. You know 100%. What I mean? Like, this had to have been him. He's like, no, let's go back to the basics. Let's just have Anduin and Thrall and just have this meeting.
A good voice actor he is, too. Yeah. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it said it all to me. I don't know, the point where he's holding his sword out and the sword is shaking, so unsure, and Thrall steps into the sword and it becomes still. Like, Thrall is the voice of surety, of like, I'll be your rock. I will help you go forward. And I was like, man, this is so powerful. There's probably so many other subtexts that went on in that trailer that are super incredible, but it set the stage. You know what I mean? It followed, that right after the Metzen talk was, mission accomplished, job well done, everyone. So I think you're onto something, Koltrane, about story first. I think for a lot of years, a lot of people have been like, I don't care about the WoW storyline. It's not the most compelling thing about the game. I want to go raid. I want to do Mythic Plus. I want to space bar and skip all this story dialogue and context. And a lot of people went to Final Fantasy XIV, and a lot of people went to play Guild Wars 2 and other games that are more narrative heavy. And I think this is important. I think WoW needs to hit this story first element, because even the majority of people who play WoW are not raiders, at the core of it. And so I think this appeals to those type of players. Does it have anyone else excited about what is next as far as story goes? Are you guys seeing it the same way as I am, of why they're putting such an emphasis on this?
I have no say in this one.
I
haven't played since 2008. So
I don't want to talk too much. Go ahead.
Go for it.
Go ahead, Scotty. You're about to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I was heavily invested in WoW lore for a long time. And when I quit, I really became an outsider. I didn't watch anything. I vaguely know what's going on, something about a jailer and Sylvanas killing, what's his name? Bolvar. So I knew the story got convoluted. So from just your casual WoW player looking back in, it feels it's not the same game anymore from a story perspective. Whereas you show me this trailer and all I see is Horde and Alliance, there's Thrall, and now here's Anduin. Why am I forgetting his dad's name? What is it?
Varian,
yes. Yeah. It's like that. He was such a great character, and now it looks like we're back to the roots of the Horde and Alliance, the bond that they share, the difficulties they also share as warring tribes, I guess you'd call them. But I think it's back to the roots. It got an old school fan like me to be invested once again in that, which is now making me consider coming back. So
we raid Wednesday nights, Scotty. I'm telling you, we got room, buddy. Wednesday nights.
I think delves are going to be my jam. I'm ready to talk about those.
We're almost there. Yeah. Scott, you asked earlier, why is it important that they announce 3? Isn't this just a rebranding? And I'll tell you why it's important. I think if we go back and we look at Legion, for example, I think, or you could do this for any of the expansions. As you go from patch to patch, when you're in a set expansion, you have to tell that story and conclude that story in that patch. And so you have no room for depth. You have no room for failures or losses that lead to, bigger payoffs. So I think why 3 are important is why a saga is important is you have a longer format to tell this more cohesive story that may have more elements.
Okay.
But they have more room to let things breathe and to have some, like a Empire Strikes Back, they can have some losses in this midnight expansion.
Yes. Midnight.
Leading into
so you
the last
think that
Jedi,
this is because
Last Titan.
of the narrative importance now. That's why you think they're doing it.
100%. I think that's the whole Metzen's whole thing is he's like, I got this wrap-up story to tell, and it's going to take this amount of time to do it, and to make it compelling, like a Final Fantasy XIV, which is what it's known for. Okay. They've been telling the same story for all these years, is I think they just need more room. I just think they can't tell compelling stories within one expansion. Yeah. Or it's very difficult in the least. I don't know. Am I onto something?
I think you're spot on. And also as a current WoW player, my focus now, I'm so excited for the War Within, and then like Midnight. So what does that mean? Midnight. And then like the Last Titan. I cannot wait for those cinematics. I cannot wait to read those quests. Where imagine if they didn't do this, okay? And they just said, we're going underground and you're going to fight beetles. Like that's what it would be. It'd be like, well, you're fighting beetles and the Nerubian Empire and all that stuff. It'd be like, okay, well, this is kind of lame. But knowing it's like building towards this epic end game like finale, I'm in. I'm sold. So like I'm okay if we're gonna just fight beetles and it's gonna be whatever. I want to know what happens next. And in the cinematic, Manduin, I'm sorry I keep calling him Manduin. I apologize. It's so ingrained in me now. And Thrall, they're having these visions of something. It's giving them this voice. But also in the cinematic for War Within, there was another character. I'm blanking on her name. I think she's one of the Windrunner sisters. Something. Yes. She's having visions as well. Yes. But it's evil visions. So like she's being like summoned by something evil. It's kind of like The Stand or something. Like there's like these chosen people, from each side that are all going to be building. So I can't wait to hear about Midnight. I love the comparison of Empire Strikes Back and The Last Jedi, The Last Titan. Brilliant comparison, Tom. I love that. So,
it's funny that you brought that up, Tom, because I did it in real time, and I think that's a factor that's often overlooked among a lot of gamers. Is yes, we want the game to be fun, the combat to be satisfying, there be rewarding things to do, but subconsciously, the emotional investment in the characters and the story and the world in the game as a whole makes us want to play it more. It is more immersive. It actually makes us feel like we're part of the world and the narrative. So I think that's a great point, man, because then I think about myself in some of the games. Like I haven't paid one lick of attention to what's going on in New World. So I think that's probably a factor of why I don't want to play it as much as I did WoW. Same for Guild Wars. Don't really care about that. So it's an important piece. And I definitely saw that in myself as you were talking about it, because it became clear at that point.
And we'll go to Mr. Diablo. Rob, does the story in WoW, is that the one thing that could get you interested, or a component that could at least interest you in trying the game out?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that Blizzard always does a good job with their cinematics and ways to bring you in, even since Diablo 2 back in 2000. Like those cinematics were off the chart. I think it would be more the thing of everybody else and a lot of people I know playing would probably bring me in more than anything else, more than even the story. Like stories are great more for single player games and MMOs that have like a single player component to them where you can kind of play the game by yourself. But something like that I think would be more of a team bringing me in type of thing.
Okay.
But you probably enjoy the story once you were there.
Maybe, and I mean, I have a base knowledge of. I have to see it from the beginning to kind of lead me up to where it is now, because I'm so like, literally the last time I
you're
played
far
anything
removed.
and the last
Right.
time I played anything Warcraft was like 1999. So
Yeah.
Well, I guess let me rephrase then, Rob, because the way Metzen kind of pitched this was, it almost feels like, and I think Koltrane, you alluded to this earlier, like this is the end. Like we are wrapping up this World of Warcraft story, this Azeroth story, the Titans story. Yeah, I mean, is there a pull to see like, hey, I played Warcraft, I know the lore. Do I want to see the end, or like you said, you've been kind of out of it too long that it doesn't really matter that much at this point?
yeah, I've kind of been out of it too long.
Okay,
I'd have
gotcha.
to start from
Pick it back up.
the beginning, like where I left off.
I was gonna say, are there any YouTube videos?
Oh,
Are there
yeah.
YouTube videos
Whole
out there?
bunch.
I would need to watch like hours and hours of video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they're
Totally.
actually changing the leveling experience now, where it's going to be Dragonflight is actually going to be the new leveling experience, I believe, for brand new players getting in.
Yeah.
You'll
You're
start
right.
at level 1 in the Dragonflight expansion, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, and
So
then
you'll have okay.
yeah, so you'll have
catch
dragon
you up.
riding, you'll
Oh,
have all
dragons
that
right
stuff
off
for
the
all your mounts at like level 10 or like right away. Like,
And they're
so,
bringing they're bringing dragon riding to everything, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Just about every mount. They said it's in the triple digits. They didn't say. They said just about every
That's
single
wild.
I think they said
Yeah.
over 300 mounts. Yeah, we'll have access to it. Which
Oh
is
man,
awesome.
I'm gonna go ham with the Sky Golem.
Right.
Absolutely.
The whole reason we took engineering, buddy. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go ham with delves, Scott? You mentioned delves.
Yeah.
That might be your jam. What had you excited when they kind of showed off some of that stuff?
I want to first make sure that I'm making a fair comparison. Delves are sort of analogous to lost sectors in Destiny, right?
Yeah.
I guess that would sort of
Yeah.
more or less.
In a way.
Like
So
open world.
it's like a mini dungeon, sort of.
Mhm.
But I think it's a cool concept, man. It's a PvE part of the game that isn't that time consuming. At least it sounds like. And there's a lot of flexibility with it. You can do it with just by yourself, without two people. There's the hero is a cool feature, Tom. I think it's a lot akin to the Jesus droid in SWTOR. That goes through instances. It tanks, it heals, it DPSs, whatever you want it to do.
Totally.
So that's just another layer of fun. It's not game breaking. It's not like this revolutionary thing, but it's fun. So for me, that's a PvE thing that I can do. That's not really that time consuming and
Yeah,
it's still fun.
I'll do a rundown and kind of what it is, and then I'll let some of you other guys jump in. So, yeah, delves are like an open world, bite-sized content. You kind of mentioned it a little similar to dungeons. However, they mentioned they're going to be able to do some even cooler things, like maybe make more puzzle-heavy, instances. It's not always going to be fight a big bad boss, so... I liken it to like Guild Wars 2 heart missions, like all different. It's technically open world because it's seamless when you enter the delve. And I just think that is incredibly smart to start making more content for probably the majority of your player base at this point, more casual players who want to spend time in the open world. Yeah, I can see this being a gameplay loop for me as well. When I'm not doing PvP and, I don't want to go and look for a dungeon group or go into LFG or, LFR. I don't want to, if I don't want to do that, this is something you can do with, like you said, solo, because it adds this companion for you that you can gear out to help you, or you can go in with 5 players.
Which is a hero that we've seen in the game. So that's cool.
Yeah.
They said the first one is Bran.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
What I
What were
like
you
about it-
guys? Yeah, go ahead, Coltrane.
Well, it gets me out in the world. And I'm going to be able to do content out in the world. I'm not just sitting in the main city queuing in Dungeon Finder, and I just do dungeon after dungeon after dungeon to complete the little daily, and then I get some gear, or I'm just sitting in the city just queuing. I'm actually out in the world. I'm exploring. I'm with my friends or I'm by myself. And that already is huge. Get me out there. Get me out there in the wilderness. Let me explore. Let me see these zones. Let me be immersed. And I love that it's seamless, like you mentioned. I love that it's seamless. You just kind of see this cool little area, And they're going to walk in and suddenly this music is going to go and like that. And they're going to start hearing NPCs talking. And I'm like, oh, this must be a delve. Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
So I was jazzed. When it was first announced, I was like, what is this? Like scenarios or whatever? But it's not. It's something different that's really cool. And it's also evergreen, which means this is a permanent fixture in WoW going forward. And they did so much of that with BlizzCon. They introduced so many evergreen features, not just features or systems that are only going to be in one expansion and then they go away. This is going to be in WoW going forward, which I think is huge and a big thing that players have really wanted. There were 3 words they kept saying: respect players' time. And that is so prevalent in all the new systems and everything they're adding in World of Warcraft going forward, from the delve system to the warbands to the different options that they're bringing. They're respecting players' time. For the first time, they're letting us choose. Ian Hazukosa said, we cannot wait to get these hero talents and get it into alpha and beta and get your feedback and test this stuff out. They've never really kind of said that. Like they've always kind of had this thing of like, we know what's best. All right. We're Blizz devs. Like, you think you want it, but you don't. And like, we're kind of, but now they're like, no, we want to respect players' time. Give us feedback, because they've seen what's happened. The numbers have gone down and there's been so much hype on this BlizzCon. Numbers are shooting up. And I think they've made a definite change at Blizzard, and the players and our feedback is being respected now, and we're being listened to. And that's what War Within is. And that's why I'm so hyped for this new expansion.
Yeah. And, Chase, I know you're out here drinking your coffee, hunting some turkeys in the morning.
Yeah.
You're jumping in, you're jumping out. Is this the type of gameplay that sounds appealing as someone who can, hey, these are short, I can jump in, I can get some cool rewards, I can get some story because it's attached to the seasonal model. So there's going to be a progression in the story. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it is. Truthfully, that's been my biggest, concern going back to the days of when I played it, at an addiction level. And the 3 years and 3.5 years that I played, it does give me that, okay, I can play this in spurts, like not just having to just all in, like, and go, okay, after work, I'm going to have to knock out 3 hours in the day just to get somewhere in the game, and I got to prepare for a giant raid or whatever it is, it's okay, go in, do some things, get out, and I think that's nice that they're considering that they're being considerate of those players, of us, essentially. I mean, I know more of us have other, more time than others, but I think just knowing that kind of makes me go, I could give this a shot again. And in fact, it has me installing, World of Warcraft right now, just to be totally into it.
There it is.
I know. I'm installing the free version, the starter edition.
Perfect.
Just gonna start there. Just gonna start there.
Oh,
but
boy.
It has me.
What have I done?
It has
but
begun.
No. But truthfully though, it has me considering it because I've had such an enjoyable time in New World, and then also sidebarring with other games. I think it's just, again, it goes back to having balance, and I think they're seemingly tapping into those just that don't have the time, and I'm gonna go and deep dive and watch these videos by shout outs to Nobel87. Apparently he's got an entire breakdown from the beginning of Warcraft.
Oh, so he's got good stuff, man.
I've
watched a lot of his
stuff.
So
I'm gonna probably dig in and kind of give myself a refresh, because like I said, it's been almost a decade since, not a decade, almost 2 decades.
Yeah. Right.
It's unreal. It's unreal to think about, but it's like 2007 last time I played. 2008 was the last time I played. But yeah, I do think genuinely, yes, this will get me back into it if it is as much as it seems like. I've gotten away from tab targeting a little bit. I mean, I do. I think I enjoy the interaction more than tab targeting, but I think I just remember WoW did it so well. And I know we had that conversation in the last pod about, WoW having the secret sauce for tab targeting, and it's like, So they're really, I genuinely would love to have that little bit of just a little bit of the magic, you know, just bring it back a little bit of that magic and just go like, oh yeah, that's what I felt when I first started playing this. So
yeah, respecting your time has not been synonymous with the World of Warcraft
it has not
experience as of late. So it does seem like people voting with their dollars, maybe subs being down, maybe signaling to them, hey, something's got to change, you know. And to be fair to them, they're doing it, it seems like. So just to wrap up Delves before we get out of here, the coolest thing that I thought about the Delves is the actual rewards. I mean, they're saying you're going to get mythic, like level 1 to 15, you know, type rewards in here. Like this is like serious in-game starter or even in-game rewards. I mean, it's significant, right, Koltrane? I mean, you run keys, right? And think of getting this kind of stuff from open world. Isn't that a pretty cool thing for the average player?
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you can just do something that's fun just with a few of your buddies and you can still get like amazing loot. Like when you're a raider, you feel this pressure that I have to run keys. I've got to run a plus 15, a plus 17, a plus 18 to qualify. And there's a lot of people that raid that don't really like doing mythic dungeons, you know?
Right.
So this is just another aspect that they can do that might be more fitting, that they might enjoy, and they can still get that great gear, still contribute to the raid. Again, respecting players' time, giving you options, you know, see what you like and play and get gear and get loot.
You know what the most appealing part of it to me is, and not just Delves, but in PvE in general now, is that we have such a large enough group now where we can actually do our own dungeons, right?
That's true. Oh God,
that is super appealing to me because most of the time I play it, I usually had friends that cycled in and out, but I really only have about 2 people that I regularly play with. So dungeons were always pugging. 3s were usually pugging because there was 2 of us. I spent hours with Spot. I never raided just because I didn't want to go mingle with random people and all that. But now I see a mythic dungeon team right here.
Let's do it, boy. All heal, right? We got you name it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
James, do you do much PvE stuff when you come back to WoW? Are you like, I'm only PvP?
I had a discipline priest that I used to do mythic dungeons on. Nice. Same with I did healing druid. The only reason I did healing is because I could never find a healer, and when I was when I was with Scotty, we almost hit 2K with me healing as well. It wasn't that it just came easier. It's just it was so much harder to be a DPS and find a good healer. I do a lot of PvE content. I prefer PvP, but I mean, it just whatever. I like being able to group with people that I know, obviously, as opposed to just trying to find random people that are elitists. So
it makes a big difference. I'll go red. I'll go deeps. We got our group. It'll be perfect.
And I mean, with the group, with the size of our group, I mean, realistically, like we can knock out those mythic dungeons in 20 minutes. You know, like I mean, there's a real like. It's not a time sink like it was, you know. And it's
Rob, come on, buddy, get over it. Rob. Come on, Rob.
Yeah,
come on, Rob. Get in this. Come on.
So, delves on the surface don't seem that special, but I think it's a cool feature moving forward in the commute to the outdoor world and giving regular players good rewards. It's just it's awesome. More of a commitment to respecting our time is Warbands. Warbands, you know, something me and Scott have seen from Star Wars The Old Republic, known as the Legacy system. You know, only 10 years later, WoW's finally caught up. But basically, Ian even said it when he came out and talked. He's like, hey, I don't need to really go through all these slides. It's just account-wide everything. You know? Also, I need to say, you know, and side note, how relaxed did Ian look? It looked like Metzen like took all the pressure off of everyone. Like everyone just killed it on stage. Looked so relaxed. It was awesome to see. Sorry, that was just a little side observation.
It's true.
But yes, the account-wide everything. Let me go through it. Account-wide reputation, account-wide flight paths, account-wide transmog. So if you get something that you can't put on with your class, you can still put it in your transmog wardrobe, or I don't know what they're going to call it.
God, that's huge.
Yeah, and that other character can log on a warrior and put on those whatever. And so that's pretty cool. Account-wide achievements. This is a big one. We didn't really touch on. We touched a little bit on the delve, but you can, gear out your companion to be a healer, be a tank, whatever you need. Well, your delve companion is also going to be account-wide. No matter what character you jump on, you don't have to re-gear this companion every time you want to level a character.
Yeah, it's important.
Account-wide bank. This one's the big one, right?
Yeah,
shared
huge one. Yeah.
Oh my
bank
God.
between all your characters. Shared currencies, I believe they said. It seemed like no more weird ways to mail your currency to other characters and all this kind of stuff. It's just going to be shared in the bank.
Nice.
And then another big one that this is definitely going to get Rob to play. Shared crafting reagents. You can log in any character and craft from your shared bank. You don't even have to move stuff to craft. So
That's
it's just a lot of quality of life.
That's
insane
huge.
stuff.
It's everything I've been talking about for 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years.
And one thing they're doing visually that I love is, did anyone here ever play Lost Ark by any chance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Rob played it quite a bit.
Love Lost
Yeah, way
Ark.
more.
So
Yeah.
they're in when you first log into Lost Ark, you can see all of your characters like kind of hanging out like by a campfire, just kind of chilling, and you can kind of pick each one.
or something.
Exactly. They're doing the same thing in WoW.
Oh,
Where
nice.
when you log in, you'll see all of your characters. You won't just see the one, that you can kind of spin around.
That's how the class selection is in Diablo. Classes, they're all there. Yeah.
Yes. So I just
And they
love
step
that
forward
you'll see all your characters
Sorry,
in their transmog. No, you're fine. You'll see all your characters in their transmog all just chilling. And I love that. Like that feels awesome. And I hope one thing that Lost Ark did was if you killed a certain boss, you could unlock a different wallpaper, like a different background. You know what I mean?
That'd
So
be
like
awesome.
maybe they're behind a campfire, maybe then they're in an inn, or maybe they're hanging out by a waterfall, or like, and that was like a cool like little customization that you could do based on killing bosses or doing different achievements. And that could be another little cool little layer. But somehow seeing your little army of alts just like chilling together, it just feels great. And they're bringing that to WoW. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I think Ian even said like, hey, you want to make their transmogs match. So you're like, they're all hanging out with the same stuff on.
So you don't have pink, purple, and all colored armor. Yeah.
Right.
The rainbow armor wearers.
Yeah. And there was another kind of wild card thing. They mentioned this, but they didn't go how in depth this was going to be. And this was, for example, your characters on your Warband login, on your login screen, is going to be realm agnostic. So you're not just going to see your characters on one server. If you have characters on multiple servers, you see them all there.
Oh,
and you
wow.
can just choose. You don't have to go to the realm and do all that and choose who you want to log in with. And so that was crazy. And he just talks about, hey, they're now going to have cross-realm guilds, right?
Finally.
And so, they're totally removing so many barriers from getting people to play together. They're going to have cross-realm mythic raiding. I don't know if there's cross-realm arena at this point. I don't know how far it's going to go, but I would assume what they want to do is make it for
absolutely
everything.
Is.
Arena is cross-realm?
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I know they have battle groups. I don't know if it's cross realm though.
I played with Spot, and he was on a different realm
Oh, okay.
all the time.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think their intention is to make everything cross-realm, and eventually it's not even, maybe you don't even have to have servers. I'm not 100% sure. So I don't know. Just a bunch of quality of life stuff. Super cool. The next thing, though, I wanted to touch on is PvP.
Yes.
At first, I was a little worried we weren't going to get anything because in the little, whatever that first session was, the what's next, there was no mention of PvP, and I was like, oh man, this is a little concerning. I'm a little worried at this point, But when Ian came out for the deep dive, he mentioned, hey, we're making a new battleground. And I was hyped about that because there hasn't been one in a while. And even he said it. He's like, look, PvP and even Battleground specifically are a big pillar of what we do and why people play World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
We've dropped the ball on this the last few expansions. Like, it sounds like they're making a commitment. We're going to be bringing new battlegrounds, as we go. And that was like music to my ears. I don't know, Scotty, James, you guys, what did you think? Is just like finally, is this a reason to come back? Are we they're gonna take care of the PvPers for once, instead of us being the redheaded stepchild? I don't know. What'd you think?
Go for it, James.
All right. Yeah, no, I think battlegrounds are really important. Some of them are so stagnant. I still miss a lot of the older battlegrounds to where you can just go do the whole back and forth thing, and they've kind of forced us into these battlegrounds that just don't feel great. Like that whole Mr. Pandaria one where everyone's trying to dump stuff in things and everything, and it's just like it's not as fun as like Arathi Basin, like the other, like the original ones.
The OGs are so good.
Yeah, even Eye of the Storm, like I like that one, but it's just like people are so divided on that map. Like there's no cohesiveness, and you have to rely on strangers to be like, all right, let's all try to go to this thing. Like,
well, Arathi and Warsong work so well because it's so basic, but it's
forced,
still fun.
It's forced contact too. Like you have to clash. Eye of the Storm, you don't. You can just run in circles and have people chase each other. Like you need that contact. You need the conflict. And so I'm hoping that they take that into account when they do the new battleground of this imminent conflict that you're going to have in order to like, well, we have to go over there because if we don't, like this thing's going to happen. Like almost they should take the what's it called? The battle arena stuff where like there's this thing closing on you. If no one interacts for so long, it's going to force everyone into the middle or something. And then everyone can break out after this, like just brawl session. Like just mix the brawl that they have into it and then make it like a normal map again. Something to where you have to have that conflict. I don't know.
Yeah, bring the battle back to the battleground. Yeah, I get it.
Well, and they seem to be doing that. They showed a layout of the new battleground, and it's kind of like similar. It looks like those mine carts that go, but they intersect paths in two different locations. So and they're saying this will be forced battles. You know what I mean? So,
exactly. That's great.
It should be cool.
Scotty, you gonna partake?
You guys, I talked to James. I popped in there, but yeah, that's what I feel. It's great if they add more and they're compelling and are fun. I mean, otherwise, I don't think it's a good thing to add them if they suck.
Right.
Well,
let's add this crappy one.
The reason why it's also important that they're adding these is they're going to be testing something in 10.2 that they hope to put in the game permanently, which I think is what or some people have wanted for a while, is going to be solo rated battlegrounds.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you can queue up solo,
finally
get rating.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a group. It's impossible to get in a rated battleground group, it seems like, with achievements and all that. It seems like a very small community. Yeah. So this is going to give players a chance to get in, be competitive, at a lower barrier of entry, and
have completely randomized and not a lopsided match. Like, your skill level is going to help the team legitimately make or break.
Interesting.
And Koltrane, I'll just ask you because you are kind of jumping into PvP. I don't know for the first time, but it seems like the first time in a while at least. And you're just telling me that you just are having a lot of fun doing PvP.
I'm having a blast. I got to admit, it started with New World. New World got me on the PvP track. Yes. And I hadn't really I've always been a PvE guy. Always, forever. And New World got me into the PvP-ness, and I've been that sounded weird. That sounded a lot stranger than I meant it to sound. So I did jump in doing some battlegrounds recently, and it was so much fun because I really enjoyed the randomness of it. In fact, Tom and we did a little duo thing. He was in there with his demon hunter. I was in there with my holy paladin, H-Pal, and it was a blast, man. It was so much fun. Right? But it was the conquest was a little bit slow. So I said, how do I get more conquest? How that's quicker? And what did you say? I missed it. What did you say, James?
I said horde, though, right?
Oh, right. No, this was alliance. I know. I started horde, but then I got alliance. It's a whole thing.
How can you not be an orc?
I know. I played horde for like 7-8 years in a row. You know what I mean? But recently, yeah, exactly. But it was an absolute blast. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if I can get into some of this rated stuff. And now I'm, today at work, rather than working, I was watching Sea-Doo videos on Holy Paladin.
And
like learning, like, okay,
BlizzCon
how do you do
champ.
H-Pal?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was great. So it's exciting for me to kind of unlock a new area of the game that I've never really tested out or really tried, but really enjoying another aspect of World of Warcraft. So
well, and that's why Battlegrounds are great, because there's less pressure that you're like 1 of 10 or 1 of 8, you know, and you can jump in and have fun and do your job, and there's not as much pressure on you to do something like in an arena or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool, and I know Chase is getting into some PvP in New World, so maybe there's hope for him too.
Me and my level 45 character.
Rob was
Rob
dominating.
too, man. That's a cherry that's not been popped very often.
He was getting
I did do an outpost rush.
Whoa!
You got mobbed.
There we go. So yeah, I'm excited for the PvP and War Within. I think they're making some cool changes. The other thing is always, look, PvPers, we just get crapped on. We get the leftovers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Finally, it seems like we're going to have faster gearing, or at least that's what Ian said, and back to determined gearing. We can purchase the pieces we want in the order we want. No more RNG from the Great Vault. They're taking PvP off the Vault.
Thank God.
Wow.
And so it's all music to my ears. It's all great. So I'm, hopefully we don't need to go raid to get some crazy trinket.
All right, let's play tonight.
everyone's coming in tonight. Rob, I'm telling you, Rob. Listen,
let's play
everyone's
tonight.
downloading it right now.
Well, we can't with Scotty's.
It's
We're
gotta be a
drinking
sleep.
NyQuil.
I'll be ready for some battlegrounds here.
Like, all right, guys, let's
In a
play
second.
tonight.
The last big thing that they announced was the hero talents.
Yeah.
And just another like hitting the bullseye. I don't understand how they're they're hitting all the right notes. And this was cool. This is more of a class identity, class fantasy. It's a way to choose almost like this. I don't know if it's like a third spec, but for example, Ranger, you could spec into Dark Ranger. Or if you're a Paladin, you could spec into this Templar kind of spec. And it's basically a third skill tree that you'll have. And you're only going to have 10 options to pick. And I thought this was the brilliant part. You get the points as you raise your level cap, another 10 levels. And they're not adding any more abilities to the regular trees. And, this is what always causes the power creep. It always causes there's way more stuff now than we need. So I think this was a cool way, and maybe they'll just keep adding these new specs as they go.
I think for me, it's a big part. We talked about that earlier a little. I think it's an overlooked factor that keeps us engaged. And when you identify and mesh with that class, there's something magical about that too. So, I mean, I'm looking at the shaman, I see like Stormcaller and all this stuff, and it's just, it's just another element added on to something cool already.
I'm a little nervous, boys. I'm a little nervous. A little nervous about the.
Why you gotta
talent.
disagree with everything I say, Koltrane?
No, I was gonna say this before
Damn
you
it.
spoke. It's not you. It's me. I'm a little nervous.
A lot in my life.
I hear it all the time. Trust me. Again, really.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
It's gonna be me at this point. Come on. I'm a little nervous because of the balance thing. I'm hoping that this is more of like a cosmetic thing or like a feel type thing. But when I was looking at the tooltips and they're like, your treants cast, Stonefire, all I'm thinking in my head is, okay, do I have to watch another guide that's like the theory crafters are like, okay, you want to take this build and then these hero talents because they offer the most DPS. Like that's my only fear is a balance thing. You know what I mean? If this is just another layer of, oh, you have to take this row, then this ability and this ability. Yeah, exactly. So that's my only fear. So I'm hoping this is more feel and juice and cosmetic. You know what I mean? Like the Death Knight. One of them was called Rider of the Apocalypse. Like, holy cow. Like, that sounds amazing. But like, I'm worried it's going to be like, well, the most DPS is if you have to take Rider of the Apocalypse and you have to take
That's
this
fair.
and that. You know what I mean? That's my only fear. That's my only fear. So we'll
Isn't
see.
it
But we'll
always
find
like
out.
that though?
I
with the
know it
specs?
is. You're right. It is. But we'll
I
find out
would
in the
be
alpha.
more. I feel like it. Okay, they used the balance druid for an example, and it looked to be spells that just affected, at least for that hero spec, that just affected the treants.
Right.
So if every sub hero spec has like a very basic change to an ability, like I bet you a Dark Ranger, for example, their arrows for some abilities might do dot damage, like dot shadow damage.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll add a flavor, but I don't think it'll be game breaking in that sense. But you are right. For PvP, I could see how a dot shadow would probably be better than the other ones, but we don't know yet. So maybe they'll all have their special niche in that way. I don't know.
But it looks cool as heck, man. And
It
again, another
certainly does.
evergreen feature that's going to be permanent in WoW. Again, amazing. That's my own little fear, is a little balance thing and having to look up more guides, more complexity. But I'm hoping that it's more feel, like you're talking about, Scotty, because that sounds incredible.
It does.
So I'm hoping it's more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of scary what you brought up a little, Koltrane. Like, I don't want this to be the new borrowed power thing, or the the thing you have to have or have to spec into, because they did say I believe each spec can choose 2 of the options. They have the ability to take 2 of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's going to feel real bad if the other spec has the one that's really good that you're not playing, and you're like, oh, now do I have to play Fury instead of Arms, or do I have to? That
then it becomes more of like a rock scissors paper kind of situation.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, you're right. Like, how cool would it be to have a Dark Ranger transmog set? Like, if they go really into this and make it to where, hey, there's an armor set for each spec that you can earn or get. Like, I don't know, Deathstalker as the rogue. Are you kidding me?
That sounds sweet
amazing.
too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Stormbringer for the shaman. Mountain Thane for the warrior. What is a Mountain Thane? I don't know. These sound awesome.
What are the monks?
Let's see. Monk. Master of Harmony. That's weak. Shadow Pound. And Conduit of the Celestials. I don't know. I'm not.
That sounds kind of cool.
I don't know.
Conduit of the Celestials. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
The temporal loom.
What I'm worried about is Demon Hunter, because there's only 2. There's only 2 Demon Hunter specs.
What if they just added a new whole class, or not class, but a spec to Demon Hunters? There you go.
I kind of thought they were going
Ranged,
to. Yeah, that would have been awesome. I don't know. This all seems cool. It just seems like more flavor, more cool stuff that we'll get. But with all that being said, guys, all this sounded really great, right? You're going to jump back in, though, and it might still feel like the old WoW we've left for a while, maybe until some of this gets here. I don't know. I'm incredibly hyped. I do want to jump back in. And even before the expansion, and kind of experience some things, play with different characters. Hey, what do I want to main? What do I want to do?
Marksman Hunter.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, Hunter. That's
is WoW
Marksman
back?
Hunter.
Is it back?
I think it's about to be.
Sounds like it's coming back.
That's the headline right there.
Are we just too optimistic, or is it back?
I don't know.
No, the mood is shifted.
The
mood
mood
is
has shifted.
absolutely shifted. I think we can all feel it. It's palpable, as they would say.
Yeah. There's
I trust you. Metzen, I trust you. You know what I mean? That's what it is. I trust you.
Yeah. I have this weird take I want to get in before we kind of jump into some of our speculation of maybe what the future holds. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I think this next expansion marks, like, WoW will have stolen everything from all the other MMOs.
Yeah.
All the MMOs that I'm still playing, at least, because I'm still playing 10-year-old MMOs. I'm playing Guild Wars. I'm playing Star Wars The Old Republic. They've just stole the Legacy system. They've just sold Uprisings, which are kind of like Delves from Star Wars. Guild Wars is great because it's you play your account. It's account-wide everything. It has the most convenience, But they don't have anything anymore. WoW is now going to add all of these things, and I think these games are dead. I don't think they're not getting any more new players. If a new player comes to the table and they're like, do I want to play the most popular game that has all these things, or this niche game that has some of these things? I think until they come out with a sequel, they're kind of dead in the water. Not that I'm not going to go play those games anymore. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'm just like, for new players, people coming into this space, I just think WoW is is going to remain the king for as long as they have already done. You know,
Yeah.
The downfall of WoW will be itself, really.
I would have.
That's where it was headed, but I think Metzen kind of righted the ship.
He did.
Yeah.
At least that seems to be the community's kind of feeling. Like, listen to us. You know what I mean? Like, you guys who haven't played WoW in years are like, all right, I'll download it. You know, Chase over here, he's downloading the starter experience. Rob, he's silently committed to returning back to WoW. It's amazing.
He is. He has.
Yes, he's back.
He actually just texted me and said, I'm back to spotted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few unanswered questions like, what is the timeline for these expansions? Do you guys have any theories on how quickly or how long it may take for us to see this saga through?
I mean, they said that it'll be completed by 2030. They said that all three will be completed by 2030. But I mean, there's big rumors that these are going to be like yearly expansions. You know, that they're going to be cranking these things out, you know, quicker. And that's gotten some positive reception and also some negative reception as well. But like I was saying earlier in regards to Diablo, numbers always go up at the beginning of an expansion. You know, things pop, you know, and that's when everyone checks it out. New big patches, new big expansions. So I'm personally fine with 1 year every expansion. You were mentioning, which one was it? Star Wars. There's another one that's doing a year every expansion.
Guild Wars, Elder Scrolls Online, Destiny.
Yes. Yeah. So what do you guys feel about if they did a year for every WoW? Are you guys good with that?
I mean, that's how they did it for a while. It was like every 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
So I think where we're at right now is there's so many things coming out. VR is close to being Ready Player One, and that's going to be the new competition. So having every single year is more important than 2 to 3 years. Like, they have to get this right the first time because, like I said, VR is not far behind. I think within 10 years, we're going to be at Ready Player One, possibly less.
Yeah.
And so if that's the next level of gaming, and that's where we all want to go.
Yeah.
We want to be in that immersed experience, obviously, where you're looking around and you can see your whole environment. Like, that's the next step. So if they can't get this every single year, they're going to lose out because that technology is coming and it's coming fast.
I think they're going to come out much quicker with these expansions than people think. Yeah. If you're doing a saga, I mean, the longer you take, the more people will be uninterested in the story. So I think it benefits them to move it along. I'm not saying it has to be a year, but maybe 18 months, maybe however they want to do it. And I think it's going to come out quickly. And the reason why I think it's going to come out quickly and why they're wanting to wrap this up is I do truly believe they want to reset, whether that's a WoW 2 or something else. And I think before that can happen, they have to wrap up this story in this game. And and granted, I'm going on very little here, but Metzen said the reason why we're doing this is going to vector us into the next 20 years.
Wow.
So they don't want to take the same game into the next 20 years. They want to make WoW 2 the new experience that can last. Am I way off on this, or is there something potentially big coming after The Last Titan? Some kind of shakeup.
Oh, I think something's coming, man. We've been talking about that in several videos. The landscape is changing. We're at another revolution in MMOs, and I think we're going to see a new breed of MMOs in the next decade.
And hot take, tab targeting is going to die with it.
Oof.
Jeez.
Very hot. That's scorching.
I think the Black Desert style action RPG-esque is going to take over. Yeah. I think that's going to be the next iteration.
I love it.
Yeah,
but we're old. Our reaction time isn't going to be fast enough.
That's true.
We need the tab targeting because we're old. Yes.
It's okay. Tom,
I'm getting destroyed in Outpost Rush in New World. It's because I'm old. I can't react quick enough.
No, the Blizz survival could tell us a lot about maybe where the next combat could go and how they do that. I don't know. And I think even more small little thing that's telling in the second 2 expansions, we're going to the old world. I think they're going to revamp. I think all of Azeroth, the old game, is going to get a facelift. and it's going to be fresh moving into whatever that last thing is. I don't think that's a coincidence. So,
oh my gosh, we'll do the Unreal Engine 5. Wow, you would see those videos. Amazing.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you.
Can we? Do we even have enough energy to talk about what we're playing at this point, or is that? Should we wrap it up there?
He's like, I had too much NyQuil.
I should. Yeah.
Oh man, awesome! Any closing thoughts? Wrapping up BlizzCon before we get out of here.
I wanted to say I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I mentioned at the top of this: the good, the bad, the ugly. Honestly, it was great. It was fantastic, especially if you're a WoW fan. Oh my gosh, if you're a WoW fan, incredible BlizzCon. Absolutely hyped for the next expansion. I'm not going to pay the $90 version. I'm not going to do it, but I am going to get the expansion. And hyped for 10.2. This has got me really, really fired up for WoW again. And I think that's shared by a lot of people. So I thought it was a huge, huge success for Blizzard.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, everybody download. Let's jump in.
Yeah.
Woo!
Go.
Already done.
Nice. Well, hey, thanks for joining us, everyone. Man, this was a good one. BlizzCon, super hype. Really hyped for WoW and what's coming next. Let us know in the comments. Jump in the Discord. I'll leave the link below what you're thinking if you want to jump in, play some Battlegrounds with us. And check the links below, too, for some of these other guys' channels. We'll have Chase and James's channels and stuff linked down below. And maybe one day Coltrane's when he makes his.
And Rob's.
And Rob's.
Yes.
His
WoW
new
channel.
WoW channel.
Exactly.
That he's going to make. But anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you guys in the next one.